It's pretty common when making a simple loft like this one to want to place all of the profiles on evenly spaced planes. Here we see the loft, which is 10 inches long, has a series of 6 planes spaced evenly apart at 2 inches apiece. Creating evenly spaced planes like this is easy, of course, simply by going to Plane, selecting my right plane, and since I know I'm going to add 5 planes spread over 10 inches, I know the spacing between them is 2 inches. So I can change my spacing to 2 inches, offset from the right plane. And instead of making just one plane, I'll make 5 of them all at the same time. But what happens if I decide to change the length of my loft? I don't have any parametric relation between the locations of the planes and the actual length of the loft itself. So if I go back to my layout for my loft and change this, say, to 10.5 inches, I'm going to have to go back and respace all of these planes so that this last plane will line up with the endpoint of the loft and the other ones maintain even spacing all along. So another way to handle this situation is to control the location of all my planes using a layout sketch. Here what I'm going to do on my front plane is create a new sketch and just create a series of 5 segments connected end to end in a horizontal, and I'm going to make all of them equal. I'm going to take this endpoint, make it coincident with the origin, and here I'll draw a vertical center line which aligns this last endpoint with the tail of my loft. Now what I have are 5 line segments, all the same length, and the endpoints between them are all evenly spaced. Since we know already this is 10 inches, these will be spaced at 2 inches apiece. Actually, I forgot that we had changed this to 10.5, so this is now 2.1 inches apiece. I'll just go ahead and finish the sketch. Here you see it in the feature tree. Now when we create our planes, instead of just creating parallel planes using the offset command, I'm going to select our right plane as the first reference. For a second reference, we're going to select this endpoint in our layout sketch. And that creates our first plane. And the only downside to this method is that we have to manually create each of the additional planes. And I like to always go back to the original right plane as my first reference to create each subsequent plane, and I can keep on doing this until I have all the planes created. A slightly faster way to do this is to pre-select the right plane and the endpoint that's going to control the plane while holding down the control key, and then just go ahead and go to the plane command, and that automatically pops in the plane using the right plane as the first reference and the point as the second reference. Here's what it looks like when all the planes have been added. If I modify the length dimension in my layout sketch, you see that automatically not only has the layout stretched out, but all the planes have respaced themselves to accommodate them. This guarantees that we have equal spacing and that we cannot accidentally have the end of the loft come off of the last profile plane. Now what if you've already created your planes, just offsetting them from the right plane, and perhaps you've already got your profiles already drawn, so you don't want to delete the planes, and you decide that you want to go ahead and use this method to control the locations of the planes. You can always redefine the plane creation method after the fact without destroying any profiles that you might have drawn upon them. So here I'll add in my plane location control sketch, which at the moment is not controlling the location of any of the planes. And I'm going to drag it so that it occurs before the planes do. So here's my plane location sketch. Here are the planes which were created by being offset from the right plane. And then with each plane at a time, I'm going to edit the relations and relate these planes to my plane layout sketch. So here I've got the right plane with an offset distance of 2 inches is creating this first plane. What I'm going to do is activate the second reference and click on this point as a reference to locate this plane. When I do so, I get an error because we have a conflict between this plane being created by an offset and also being located by this point. All I have to do is change this now to parallel, and that's telling us that this plane now is going to be defined by being simply parallel to the right plane but passing through this point. So that takes the distance information out of the requirements here. I can do that with each plane in turn. This time I will add this point as my reference. Again, I will get an error, and all I have to do is change from the offset to the parallel option. That will make this plane parallel to the right plane, passing through this point. And I can do that for all the other ones, so that by the time I'm done, these planes are all parametrically related to this layout sketch and the right plane. Now what if I want to add a new plane, say between these two, and have them all be automatically respaced again so that they're evenly spaced? That's not too hard. All I have to do is edit my layout sketch. I want to add a new plane here, so what I'm going to do is split this line using Tools, Sketch Tools, Split Entities, and I'll just click on this line anywhere. And now what's happened is the equal relation is still applied to the first 4 line segments, but it's been lost on this last segment that was split in 2. All I have to do is select these 2 segments and reestablish an equal relation to any of these 4 here. All I have to do is first make sure I'm out of the split entity command by hitting escape. Then I can hold down my control key and pre-select this segment, and I'll select the first segment here. I can actually select any of these 4 and hit equal again, and this will make them all equal to each other. And you see now we have 6 segments that are all equally spaced. What I can do then is add a new plane here which is parallel to the right plane and passes through this point. And there we are.